How's it going, everybody? JD here with another podcast, another episode with another amazing agent I'm bringing to us, to our Douglas Elliman family. Obviously, she's been there for a while, but I'm going to go through a couple of her accolades. But first and foremost, her name is Kirsten Jordan out of New York, super popular for what she does. But I'll give you a quick rundown of some things she's done and accomplished thus far. And then we'll, of course, get into it more into detail when she comes onto the screen. So first and foremost, over 10 years of experience in real estate, but doing it for a while with the team that's at almost over $3 billion in deals. Herself, over $500 million of deals. She does new development, obviously working with clients from Oscar winners to influencers, you name it, top 500 executives as well. So she's done it all, and also appeared on $1 Million Listing, one of my favorite shows, bringing me into the game as well in New York. So she's extremely knowledgeable. She knows her stuff, and I'm lucky to have her on with us now. So let's bring her on, Kirsten.
Thanks so much for having me.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
All right, so we're going from coast to coast. So I want to say thank you for being part of this. This is great. Kirsten, we're going to ask some questions of you, get the dialogue going, and let's have some fun, okay?
Sure, I'm excited. It's just fun. I love how quick this is and easy, even though we're on your side of the...
I made it as simple as possible. Our time is very valuable, and I do know that. All right, let's start with the first questions. Bragging rights. Obviously, it's important to showcase what you do. I know it's always uncomfortable to say, this is what I do. This is how I do it, right? But tell us your accolades, tell what you do, and of course, how you got into the business itself.
Well, like you were saying, I have been in the business now for 15 years. I started at Douglas Elliman, actually, and I worked for another agent that was a top producing agent.
Nice.
And since then, I have ended up with kind of a specialty in new development because of the fact that my husband's a developer. I started working on developments early in my career, small boutique projects, actually, which was really exciting because it parallels really well with also working in the resale space. And now that I've had my own team for the last 2 years, we have really built out a really nice new development portfolio. And so we're working a lot, in that space. And we're also doing a ton of resales. So the size of my team is about, I think we have 4 ops staff and we have 6 or 7 agents, depending on, what's happening over the next couple of weeks.
Sure.
And right now what's really exciting about our milestones that we've done is that we are at the threshold we did last year, and we're only in May of this year.
Oh, nice.
So we're having a great year so far.
That means you take the rest of the year off, right?
Right, exactly. Who cares now, right? Who cares? I feel like the funny thing is that it stresses you out even more when you're actually feel like you're on track to hit your goals, because you're like, oh my God, how are we gonna make sure that we keep this going? So that's the state we're in right now.
Very cool. So you have a team now. So for 2 years, I think what's cool, Kristen, a lot of people who I've interviewed thus far who's done really well in their career has had a mentor of some sort. So obviously you work for a top producer immediately, and I think it's shaved off years of experience. Am I right?
Well, I think what's really special about having a mentor, if you're able to have a mentor that then you do deals under that mentor, is that you get the experience of doing multiple transactions at any given, so you get to see a bunch of transactions. And I think, like, for me personally, being able to do a lot of deals early and seeing the volume and seeing how important volume is to the business has driven me to really making sure that volume is part of our business. So, with the agents, it's making sure that they're doing call volume, making sure that they're doing outreach volume. There's just a lot of volume that has to happen to get deals done. And so that's kind of the space that, kind of the space that we're working in right now. And then the other piece of it is just, the other thing that's really hard is the switch from working for somebody to going on your own. Like, everybody says you need to have a mentor, but the truth is if you work for somebody at some point, you might need to break out on your own and like push yourself out there a little earlier than you're ready. And I think that's something that, I kind of didn't do. I kind of waited until it was like really forced to get out on my own. And so just from the perspective of like starting to have a family and all of that, when it didn't make sense to work for someone anymore, that's kind of the space. That's kind of the way that it happened for me. But I think for a lot of people, the key is getting that mentoring, learning, and then like getting out of there and getting on your own if that's what you're meant to do.
No, for sure. I think you hit it right in the head. I think it's important to have a mentor, and you hit it right in the head when it comes to volume. People don't understand that you should be literally doing 10 to 12 clients at one time, right? And I always like, I always say, like, you're dating a lot of people, right? You got to show love to everybody at the same time equally, and that's super important. There's a lot of people who focus on one, they kill that one transaction, but they kind of lose everyone else in the meantime, right? So understand what high volume looks like and how to really take care of everybody at a high level. And I think that's what you learn at an early age, which had probably helped you as well.
Yes, totally. Absolutely.
And then, of course, going on your own, it's scary. It's the scariest. I mean, you're going on your own. You're like, okay, it's my brand, it's my face, it's my deals. That's hard. And I get it. People can stay on a team forever and do their own thing. Either one, obviously, depending what you want to do. But it's hard. It's hard. And it takes time to really develop who you are, what your brand is, and what you want to accomplish. So, which makes sense. Let's talk about how you got started into real estate. What that look like?
Well, I got into real estate like out of college, basically, because I moved to Chicago after college, and I did I did a little bit of destination management, travel, kind of like stuff like that, but I didn't really find my footing.
Sure.
I hadn't really found a job that I liked. And so then I moved to Italy, and I lived in Italy for a couple of years, and I was doing sales for it was basically a design licensing company. Okay. And from doing sales, I realized I like sales. And that's what made me decide to get into real estate when I came back to the US. So I think I came back in the US end of 2007, early 2008. And that made me really say, like, okay, I'm ready to get into sales. I'm ready to make real money. I don't want to make European money, which is crap. and I'm ready to like see what I can do to make it happen. So that's what I did. I came back, and so I was 24, turning 25, and I immediately got into the real estate business. So and then I worked on a team for a short time period, and that didn't work out. And so that's when I got the assistant position. Was right when the market was crashing.
Sure. And then so you're in New York now. So I heard Chicago. Where are you from?
I was born in Minnesota. And then I moved to Westchester, New York when I was when I was like 9 or 10, because my parents got divorced. So my mom moved us out to Westchester, which is where my stepfather was from. And so we ended up there. And then I did Westchester, and then it was Wisconsin. I went to University of Wisconsin, then Chicago, and then Italy, and then back to New York City. So
you really like the cold, apparently, huh?
I had done, once I was done with Wisconsin, I was like, after Wisconsin, I did Chicago, and then I said, I'm done with the Midwest. I'm never going back.
That cold is different level cold.
Yeah, and it's just everything. It wasn't for me. I love those places. I have such great friends from college, but
sure.
Yeah,
you're done. Right on. So I always ask a question too, because you've done so many deals and so much volume. Tell me, what's your first one? What was your first deal? Is that the one that got you the itch and the bug? What did that look like?
Well, I did have beginner's luck, and I have a friend who bought something in Soho that I sold to him, and it came on. It was like my first buyer that I was really taking out. It was a condo that was a small condo that he brought it on for $650,000, and my buyer bid $822,000. I was able to get him up to bid to get it, and he won the bid, and now. Ironically, my brother's living in there because it's an investment property. Okay. So I have my brother in there as a tenant. The monthly common charges are so low that it's actually a great investment for this friend of mine. And then the other thing that's amazing about it is like, it's actually still worth more, even though he bought it at the top of the market in 2007, 2008. Sure. It's still worth way more than what he paid for. So just shows you that if you buy the right asset and you bid up and you get it and you win the bid, long term, it's still going to be
works out. It still works.
It's going to be okay, people. It's going to be okay.
I like that. See, invest in real estate. It works. I promise you. I promise you. And I know also you do some real investing yourself. So obviously I always believe in that. Yes. I tell my clients all the time when I meet them, like, not only am I obviously helping you buy and sell real estate, I'm also doing the same thing for myself, right? And that's important. That obviously I have boots on the ground. I see what's happening. I see the market. I'm telling you, because I'm experiencing it too. I'm doing it too. I would never push something that I wouldn't do myself. And I think people hear that and go, okay, cool. They feel a little more comfortable with that, knowing that.
Yeah, totally.
So next question for you, since we're almost half the year done, which is crazy. Like you said, you almost hit your goals. Congrats. What does your business look like right now? Because of what's changing right now, what does it look like, and how are you doing?
Well, things are changing in the sense that as a team leader, watching my team members really start producing is really, really big, and them focusing on their own sphere of influence and their own leads and what that looks like has been awesome.
Sure.
So that's fun. It's fun to see that. It also is fun to build out a team that supports that supports everybody. And I have a sales manager, I have a head of operations, and I have a listing coordinator, transaction coordinator. Everybody with great, with great role names. We have a head of operations, we have a client care coordinator, we have the head of agent success as my sales manager, and I have an executive assistant who helps me get everywhere I need to be and make it all happen so that we can really do everything we need to do. And I would say, like, what's awesome is I feel like I have a great team. The only piece that we're probably missing long term would be a marketing person, and I think then we can stabilize for a while when it comes to the infrastructure we have, which is really nice. And so, we're in the active phase of recruitment. We have a line out the door of agents who want to join the team, actually, because we're providing so much structure and we're providing really amazing education and just ways to generate leads, and just a lot. There's a lot that we're providing the agents, and structure as well. We have Tuesday and Thursday in-person meetings. Just a lot. We're just providing a lot of different stuff that other teams aren't doing. Yeah. And so that's just fun to see, because this is the way that I built the team. Every single time I make a decision for what I'm going to do to build my team, it's like I do it because I say to myself, right now at this juncture, if I don't do this thing, I will feel like I didn't do it right now. I like that. And so that's how I've been doing it. However, a lot of people look at my infrastructure and probably, have questions about the way that we're running things, but it seems for now it's working. So we're trying to just see what we can do to keep building it out and get the agents doing more and more business, watching them succeed. And it's exciting stuff.
No, that's awesome. I think it's important that, if you want to grow and do well, I think it's important to have a team, all right? But I think, to your point, I think there's not a right and wrong answer for a team. It really depends on what you're trying to accomplish, right? Yeah. I truly believe in the highest and best. You're trying to find the person with the highest and best, and that's what this should be doing, okay? Yeah. So it's going to take time to build the right team as well, right? Find the right people, finding what you need, and it's sometimes not going to happen immediately. Over time, you're like, hey, I feel there's a missing piece right here, that we're either not doing things at a high value, or we're actually losing business because of this, right? So either way, you're going to find that out, right? So I know people have interviewed who have a nice, big, solid team to have a couple people, right? So it just depends on what you want to accomplish, right? Obviously, the bigger the team, the more mouths you defeat. It's a little different added pressure, of course. But at the same time, if you hire some amazing people in those different areas, your business can be pretty amazing. And I'm guessing that's what you have right now. But it takes time to find the right people, whether it be the skill set, talent, and of course, they also got to blend with what you're trying to accomplish and abide with your goals as well.
Yes, absolutely.
And then get your point. I think it's great that people are lining out the door to join you. I mean, that shows that you're doing something right? And there's no better feeling when you have exclusivity in your team. Like, hey, we're hiring the right people. We're not just hiring anybody, right? So it will also create loyalty within your team as well, right? So people are like, oh man, it's premier to be here. Like, it's great to be here. Let's keep our positions and let's produce at a high volume too. And I'm sure those people also have opportunity down the road too for themselves.
Yep, absolutely. It's a great feeling.
Yeah, I love that. And so, did you always think a team was going to be your destination, or is kind of as you grew?
I would say no. I thought I was just going to have like an assistant, and I was going to have a showing agent, and that was going to be plenty, and that was going to make it happen. Sure. And then it just kept going. Yeah. In a good way. People kept calling me. They wanted to join. They wanted to be part of it. Then, and now actually, part of the biggest piece of having a sales manager for the team is really making sure that there is recruitment that's ongoing, because actually, from what I've seen, the best recruitment is not hiring somebody day one. It's giving them opportunity to prove themselves, whether it's partnering on a listing or trying it out a little bit before they get a place on the team.
Yeah, I like that.
And some people, I spoke to them for a long time, and I was like, listen, it's just not the right time. I'm sorry, you're going to have to wait. And for some people, we've been talking for a year, 2 years, and now they're on the team, which is great. Just to give you context of growth in a real way, where you say, hey, until I have this sales manager, until I have this listing coordination, transaction coordinator, this experience of you joining my team is not going to be what I want it to be for you. And now that we have those people, it's going to be a different experience for the agents.
No, I like that. So you're being precautious on adding a team member because it's not the right time yet. So there's a couple other pieces that are missing to make sure that you succeed as well. If I brought you in now, it might not work out. I just tell you right now. Exactly. That makes sense. So you're obviously doing the right thing. So you're not just hiring with the quickness either. But I do like the point where let's do a trial period too, right? Because it goes both ways to see if you're a good fit for the team, and also that you want to be with us too. You might go, oh, this is not what I thought, and that's okay. But at least we know.
And also listen, the splits of being on a team are not the same.
Yeah,
they're not the same.
Of course,
so you gotta be happy about it.
Period. No, for sure. So next question goes to, so here in the West Coast, I mean, you tell me about the East Coast, markets have changed with higher interest rates. You know what I mean? Homes are on the market a little longer kind of thing, but now we're short inventory, which is weird. What are you telling your sellers right now in this market with high interest? What are you saying, and what does it look like for you?
Well, we are pricing in a way that is to sell. We have a schedule of what it's going to take to sell from the perspective of when we need to drop the price, adjust the price, and we have clear timing on that. Yeah. And then the other piece of it is we are really, really bullish on staging. We're really, really bullish on making repairs and making sure the place looks great. The other part is like, some people have messy tenants in place, or there's a lot of layers right now to selling. People that couldn't sell during a time, maybe 2020, through a tenant in place. Now, a couple of years later, they want to sell. They got to sell that same tenant there. There's just in New York, I still think that we're in a reasonably healthy market, and that there are going to be sales. And we're going to be fine. But I would say with sellers, it's being really, really clear about what it's going to take to get the deal done.
Right. That makes sense. So I think another person that talked about this as well, I think in this market, you got to do everything in your power to produce a listing that's almost perfect, in a sense, clean, repairs, stage well. So that potential buyer doesn't have any excuses, not to buy the place, and also not to do a reduction. Right. And that's what it comes down to, right? And that's important too. So obviously educating your clients like, hey, there's some competition out there right now, but this is what we got to do to have the best opportunity, the best price point, and of course the quickest time period, right? So I think guiding our clients is which is do you have a stager you work with exclusively out there, or do you use a couple different ones?
We use a couple different ones just because the price points vary so dramatically in New York that especially if you're staging a smaller property, there's certain stagers that are just not even in the ballpark of what you would do. And then with high-end properties, there's a larger selection, because the fact that having high-end staging is super, super important for the right property.
Are the buyers you're working with now, finding properties that they like right now, or is there a lack of?
There's a lack of quality inventory. Absolutely. Okay. There's a lot of crap to sift through, I would say still, that's overpriced or not great. And then in some facets of the market, there is actually nothing, like, the West Village or Tribeca, places like that. There's a very, very limited inventory.
Yeah. So because people are holding on, is that people's not moving?
Well, I mean, clearly the people who have great rates, if they don't have to sell, they're not going to sell. And there's just resistance around that, of course.
Yeah. And for the clients that you can help people who are watching this, people who you have clients like, hey, you toured it, you did a listing appointment, you're like, hey, this needs some updating, this needs kind of thing. How do you approach that in a sensitivity way? Say, hey, it's not the best, but this is what we can do. Hear me out. What does that look like?
I would say like with everything, it's really just about leveling with people as to what's real. Like, I think I don't sugarcoat things, but I'm also not a bitch. And I think that there's a fine line with what people, when you're kind of breaking people's schemas for the way that they think about things. There's a lot of people who say, I'd never invest, staging's so expensive, or, that's too expensive to do that. I'm not going to net. But the truth is the real way to make money in real estate, in addition to holding it long-term, is to improve the asset. And so if you're not ready to improve the asset or hold it long-term, you can't expect, unless you happen to get super lucky with the market, to make some sort of crazy return. Right. And that's just how it works. And it's the same in every market that way. Clearly the timing is different in our market as it is in your market, but still you just have to realize the fundamentals of real estate. Yeah,
that makes sense. So you definitely are honest. I think that's stupid. I do the same thing. I'm just super honest. Like, hey, this is what's going on. This is what buyers want to see. This is what we should do. I think I recommend it. I really, really do. It's obviously the proof is in the numbers right here. I'm really showing you what you can do. And I think that's important. Do you with in New York, are you seeing people moving into the city, moving out, or is there always kind of a nice healthy rotation?
I would say we're still seeing people move into the city. We're seeing
Yeah.
people size up in the city for sure because they
Okay.
need more space. Some people have waited as long as they could, and now their rent is high and they're small apartments and they're buying because they're like, I just can't wait anymore and I'll figure it out. And I think we're going to be in this rate environment for a while. So it's time to just
do it.
Make a move.
Yeah, no, for sure. And the rent hasn't gone down at all, huh?
No, not really. But I do think that certain parts of the rental market will soften for sure. Like the one bedroom market for sure has already softened and things like that. It's the high end that is going to have a really tough time from an inventory and perspective, because the fact that it really is where, you look at it and it is still less expensive to rent than it is to own in the city, especially for the high end, like a high end 2-bedroom market, that kind of a thing. You're looking at in some buildings, a $4 or $5 million 2-bedroom, sometimes, or 2.5-bedroom. And you can rent that for $17,000 a month or $18,000 a month. And if you do the numbers, it's cheaper to rent then. And so then there's competition there.
Gotcha.
Because these are people who want to live in a nice property. They could afford to buy, but at that point they're spending $25,000 all in to own it a month. And so they say, listen, I'll save the $7,000 a month and
that's crazy.
I'll rent it. So there's, at the high end, it's still whacked out when it comes to the rent versus buy. And the reason you end up buying is because you want to own and customize and live there and build equity. And you believe in real estate as a hedge against inflation in the long term.
Yeah, that makes sense. For us here in the West Coast, we have rentals, but obviously not at that magnitude, and we don't get paid much for rentals. I know New York gets paid differently for rental. I know there's no fix or whatnot, but what do you see happening for rentals?
The fee structure on rentals for us is, between a month and 15% of a year's rent. So, and the 15% of a year's rent is usually co-broked. So that's close to 2 months rent. It's not 2 months rent, but it's close to it. Yeah. So there's, at the higher end rental level, there's money there for sure.
Yeah, it's crazy. I see here, you can't do full-time rentals. There's no way, but in different markets you can, like New York. So that's very very fascinating for the people on the West Coast who are like, that'd be fantastic if it's something similar to that, but they don't, which is quite annoying because, everything's gotten more expensive anywhere too. So, people are willing to pay a lot more for rental, but as a sales agent, you don't make that much money out there. So it's tough, but you got to do what's best for the client. So I get it. So question, so obviously you've been in the game for a while. You've seen a lot happen, which is great. Where do you see the real estate going in the next 5 years? I mean, with technology and people working from anywhere they want to, I mean, there's so many variations happening. Where do you see it? I don't, you don't have a crystal ball, but what do you feel is happening?
I would say that the super broker is becoming more and more, more and more powerful. Yeah. I would say those relationships and them knowing the market and knowing the niche of the market and what's going on is really, really important. Sure. And then I think that broker being able to travel is becoming more and more important. I think we're going to start seeing agents that travel around the country for certain deals more and more, because the fact that it's about the relationship and it's about the overall evaluation of an asset. Sure. I was out with an agent last night who works for one of the Knight Frank reps. And it was just kind of like interesting to talk to somebody who travels, who's like dealing with international clients all the time and has to quickly brush up on different markets. Yeah. And it's very doable. I think we're trying to specialize, and it's important to specialize, but it's also important to understand when your advice is valuable to a client. So I think we're going to see more of that. I also think that we're going to still see virtual transactions for sure. Yeah. And that's where the super broker piece is going to be more and more important, because the super brokers are going to do those transactions. Yeah. So that's going to be huge. Yeah. And then the other piece I think we're going to see is the influence of AI is going to be there, especially when it comes to writing, listing descriptions, blogs, responses to things. That's going to be interesting. Right. And then that's going to make it more and more competitive to be an agent that provides value to your clients, and that's something that I think no one was really expecting, because nobody was acknowledging that the advancement of technology is exponential, and exponents are powerful, because sure. You can turn around and something that's exponential can go from 5 or 6 to 100 in just because kind of like how it works. I was reading this book called The Singularity is Near, and the concept of the book is that technology, there's going to be a point when all of a sudden technology and humans are going to be difficult to differentiate from each other. And it sounds sci-fi, but I think ChatGPT is something that is the first moment that everybody has said, oh my God, it's happening.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's. I think it's crazy. Let's start with the first point. I think you're right. I think people are really. I'm with you. I think clients love what you do for them at a local level, but they also want your advice for other markets, kind of thing, and that's fine. I think it's great. To your point, know your market, kill your market. That's what you should be doing, but definitely know outside as well. That's super important. Obviously, your neighboring markets, and of course, obviously within the U.S. at least, right? Find out what's going on. Hook up with other agents in other markets. Go, hey, what's going on? I have a client, maybe. Give me a quick rundown. What are you seeing? What's happening? Kind of thing. To your point, we can go online and figure everything you want in a heartbeat. There's no better to make that contact when someone's doing local business to see what that's like. Right. Yeah, I can definitely see that happen when you're flying all the clients and helping them out. Like, hey, Kirsten, I just want you to be with me. I really do. You can hear.
Yeah, I just want you to come. I just want you to come to Florida, or I want you to come to the West Coast, or I want you to come and just see this and tell me what you think. Yeah. I mean, I have people who are like, yeah, I'm thinking of buying something up in Westchester. Will you come just take a look at it, tell me what you think, send it over to me, it's just, kind of
it makes sense. It is. Yeah, the comfort level's there. Not that I don't trust the one person you recommended, but the comfort level with you, they're going to talk to you like, hey, just an advisor, like, hey, what are your thoughts? You can talk real estate with them all day, but I think that's important. And now with, all these jet suites and all the private, you can get anywhere in the country in a heartbeat and on a dime. Before, a commercial was extremely hard to do and on dime, and now you can do that, which is easy too. And then which is great. And I'm doing that too. I'm helping clients across the country now that never thought I would be doing that, but I am, which is great. And at the same time, it's also building my toolbox. I'm learning a lot more than I thought I ever knew because I didn't need to. But now it's actually intriguing to me. But then it comes back to the AI. I'm with you. I think AI is very, very important to know. You don't have to obviously be all in kind of thing, but definitely know what's happening. Obviously, because your competitors are going to be doing that. I know we're using AI to a certain degree, but you also got to humanize it, right? They're going to have new agents in day one using AI for blogs and everything. How sincere and how much they really know, you can't tell me, but I bet you with experienced agents like yourself, Kirsten, who've been in the game, they're not going to question anything you put out there, right? But it's also important to utilize, services. It's no different than having a Google or whatnot. You got to use it to your best ability. It makes sense. But to your point, it's incredible. Every time someone uses it, it's building on it. It's building on it. It's building on it. And so it's intense. It really is intense. But hopefully the people use it the right way. I mean, that's always what we hope for. But also take advantage of it for your benefit if it helps you. Yeah, that's great. Do you use it now? Are you using any platforms now?
Yeah, we're using ChatGPT for some things and experimenting with it right now. I mean, it's pretty good for some stuff. Yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah, it saves me time and sometimes.
Exactly, it saves you time.
All right, next question. So obviously you're super experienced. You've been around the block in a good way. Some good advice. What advice would you give to a new agent, a team leader, anyone in the game right now? What kind of advice would you give them?
My biggest piece of advice would be focus on your relationships and focus on your day job of getting out there each day and, showing and selling and following up and funneling. Sure. And then don't forget your morning and night job, which is, making sure that there's enough networking and rounding out with your sphere on a regular basis. And so I think that it's super, super important to, you don't want to be too heavy in either side, but I think that no matter what, you need to be heavy in both.
Yep. I agree. I think it's important. I think my biggest thing is know your schedule, right? Having a consistent schedule, and I'm obviously meeting clients, prospecting, building on your business, networking. I mean, those are such big factors in your longevity and success of your career. And then I think become an expert in something, and then build on that. There's no better feeling when someone's like, oh man, Kirsten, she knows, she knows new development. I mean, call her. She's awesome. That's a great feeling when people start using it as a resource. And of course, expand on that. Don't be a one-trick pony by any means, but definitely start with that and grow on that, because it almost will motivate you to learn more things because you feel so enticed to learn more and build that toolbox. So I definitely agree with that all day, every day. So obviously being a team leader, you coach, you said you meet twice a week. Do people reach out to you on a regular basis? Like, hey, you're doing so awesome. I have some questions. I'm sure you do.
all the time.
Yeah.
And I refer them to my blog. I refer them to my website. I refer them to my Instagram. And I do content for new agents. I just think, first of all, I don't have enough time and to talk to all the people that want extra, want the one-off advice.
Sure.
And then the other piece is, it's not good for me to take the time away from my team, because my team still is fighting for my attention and needs my attention, especially around deals and stuff that they're working on.
Sure.
And so if I'm spending all this time talking to people that I don't know and giving them advice for free, because in the end, you can't really send someone a bill for a 25-minute coffee. Unfortunately, it just kills the bottom line to the KJ team. And KJ team is no longer just me as an entity. I could build out a coaching business in 5 minutes, but that's not the point right now. It's the point is to focus on the real revenue, which is selling properties and building a team and training the team so that they're able to do this on their own and grow and, really get out there. And then, of course, do my own individual business. And I love the thought leadership piece, the speaking circuit, all that stuff. So that's something that I'm focused on too.
Yeah, that's good. I think it's important that you show your team, hey, people are reaching out to me, but you guys, I'm your leader, right? I'm going to be there for you guys. You know what I mean? And stuff. But I love that you do transparency. Hey, I do have a good blog though. Please read it. I update it.
I put out so much content answering everybody's FAQs. I have put out so much content. And if somebody really wants to talk about some sort of a, arrangement, it's one thing. But usually once you get to that point, people kind of fade off. And I don't have a program in place for that.
Sure.
I could potentially do something that was that's like a monthly program or something like that where there's deliverables.
Sure.
But again, I'm focused on other stuff right now.
Yeah, I think you should. I think
my team really needs me right now.
Yeah. No, for sure. You never want your team hey, remember when you used to help us? You're oh,
yeah, no. Yeah, exactly. Now you're people are paying you to help them, and we feel like we're paying into the team, and we can't have that.
You never want that, but it shows that you are valuable, right? That you're getting requests all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's another piece of this is that as a team leader, it's really easy to forget that a lot of your value to your team is just helping them with deals. And my sales manager is great at doing that too. And so we are collaborating in that space and continuing to level up to assist the agents as much as we can.
That's cool. Yeah, I get requests here and there too, but definitely from hey, I'm looking to start a real estate. I see what you do. It's so cool kind of thing. And I try my best to answer quick, maybe 4 bullet points, do this.
Yeah. Exactly. If you can quickly respond, I think it's totally doable.
But I'm with you. But then once you open that door, okay, if I do this, what happens? And you're oh, okay. You know what I mean? So it's just balancing time. So I'm with you. I think honestly, I've learned from a young age that if you are good at what you do and you made to the top, there's no better feeling than giving out information, right? I think that's great. I think it's beautiful.
And there's no better way to entice people to talk to you than to ask them for advice, in a lot of ways, especially if you have real rapport with them.
Yeah, I think when you're off in your sunset, Kirsten, I think that's going to be your next thing. I have a feeling, for sure.
Exactly.
Well, we talked about a lot about where they can find you. So you got a blog going on. You're on everything, which is awesome. But I think you mentioned the blog is where to go. So I'll put it on the description below where they can find you. But start listing the things out. What else you put on? So you got blog.
Yeah, I have a blog. I have a newsletter. So blog, newsletter, and then of course I put out content on Instagram. I'm building up my YouTube a little bit more. There's a Moms of Real Estate show that I've been putting on there on and off for the last year.
That's cool.
And we're hoping to continue to put out more and more content. And the Kirsten Jordan team has its own robust presence. We have an Instagram handle, which is the Kirsten Jordan team. And then we also have our website, which is thekirstenjordanteam.com. We're going to try to switch it. We got to get it to KJT, but for now we're still the Kirsten Jordan team. It's a little lengthy, it's a little long, but
that's funny. People always forget, how'd you pick your name? Honestly, it's just one of those. At night, I was hey, this sounds good. It's simple as that. But I'm with you. So you're on a lot of. So I think it's important to know that she's an animal. She's a beast. She's done a lot of different cool things. So kudos to you. She's $1 million listing. She's on almost every single news platform, all that stuff. Tell me, I think there's a lot of people who are talented in our network who do good business and wow, I want these opportunities too. So my question here is, you've been featured on so many platforms. What should an experienced agent do to try to get a platform or get interviewed on these? How'd that become, and what do you recommend?
Well, podcasts are a great place to start because then you can start taking clips and putting them places. And then I think social media is the other place to begin. you don't need validation from a television program or
Sure.
a news show to put your thoughts out there. That's what's beautiful about the world right now.
That's true.
So I think start small and come up with your plan, make your messaging, think of your messaging, have it ready to go, and then go for it and start putting yourself out there and make a regular cadence of capturing the content so that it's coming at a regular clip.
Yeah, I think a good point. Yeah, you don't need to be on TV to be known, but because people actually, believe it or not, people are moving from TV to the YouTube period because way more viewer, way more connection opportunities kind of thing too. And so that's opened a lot of doors for people through YouTube or other streaming services. When you were on a reality show like $1 Million Listing, did it give you any hiccups in your business? Was it hard to balance at times, or were you able to be pretty structured?
Oh, it was super hard to balance because I didn't have a team yet and I didn't have infrastructure. So it was like, it was wild, totally wild. But I made it through. Here I am on the other side.
Yeah, you did well for it, which is great. I mean, I know people always ask me, it's like, is that your next goal you want? I'm like, honestly, I don't think I want to do it to that point. I don't know if I could balance it well enough where I can do my team justice and what my goals are, kind of thing. And I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a great commercial. I mean, it's a great commercial, but I'm weigh the pros and cons. But to see you come out of it, obviously a star, which is awesome, it's huge, and you're doing great business after that, right? It wasn't because of that.
It was great.
Yeah,
but it was great. It taught me a lot and gave me some great exposure, and it was really fun.
Cool. All right. Before I let you go, is there anything you want to add to put out there? Obviously, they're going to follow you on all your platforms, kind of thing. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we end our interview?
Let's see. I mean, I'd love it if you give us a follow on Instagram. That's our biggest platform right now. I'm on TikTok too, but that would be the best. And of course, signing up for our newsletter means a lot because that's really where we put the most content that you don't see everywhere else. And I think we're going to start making that a more frequent cadence, especially the Kirsten Jordan newsletter. So take a look.
Cool. And then last question, you do obviously make sure everyone knows her business obviously is in New York. Is there anywhere in New York you do not touch, or is it kind of the New York is what you do?
We do the 5 boroughs. We're looking at the 6th borough, which is Florida, and the 7th, which is Connecticut, and Westchester, So we're taking a look at those other markets. But right now it's the 5 boroughs. We're heavy in Brooklyn. We're heavy in Long Island City, of course, Manhattan, and making it happen. So we are happy we're happy to consult on any size transaction and rental deals, just because we value the client, we value providing professional experience, and then who you choose to pick a tenant or to put under contract an apartment or a single family home is super, super important these days because anything can happen. Absolutely. And that's why we're here.
That's awesome. So she's expanding. She's doing her thing. So she's in New York, the 5 boroughs, and expanding to Florida and probably Connecticut. She's doing big things. So reach out to her if you have any New York questions. I know I will if I have New York questions. I think it's a beautiful city. I love the vibe. I love the hustle and bustle. It's really cool. You just feel the excitement when you're in that city too, which is cool. And I can sense it from you, just even through the screen here.
Oh yeah, it's a wild place to be. It's really fun here.
Well, once again, I want to say thank you for your time. I know you're a busy person, so thank you for the time. I appreciate you. Obviously, you mean a lot to Douglas Elliman. You're awesome on the West Coast. We love and appreciate you all over here. But of course, if you're in the Vegas area, let us know. But guys, follow her. She's awesome. Obviously, she's very approachable too. Follow her blog, and then we'll go from there. But thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, pleasure. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.